Today, we're diving into the first phase of the West Bengal election, and it's really a story of two extremes. On one hand, you have this incredible, record-breaking voter turnout, a real celebration of democracy. But on the other hand, a day filled with political turmoil and conflict. So let's unpack what really went down. Okay, let's just start with this one number. 91.58%. I mean, wow. That's the final voter turnout for just the first phase. A number like that isn't just a statistic, right? It's a huge statement. It tells you people are incredibly engaged. So the big question is, what on earth is driving a turnout this massive? And it's not just us saying it. The Election Commission of India themselves called it historic. They said it's the highest ever polling percentage in West Bengal since independence. That sounds like a perfect day for democracy, doesn't it? Well, yes and no. Because simmering right under the surface of that incredible number is a totally different story. One about intense political battles and a whole lot of friction on the ground. So first things first, let's just take a closer look at this turnout because it's truly remarkable. This wasn't just some last-minute rush. It was a wave that just kept building all day long. Just look at how the numbers climbed. By 3 in the afternoon, turnout was already at a massive 78.77%. And then just 2 hours later, it had jumped to almost 90%. To end up over 91%, that tells you people were fired up. They were absolutely determined to have their say. And get this, in some places, the numbers were even more wild. In the Raghunathganj constituency, they hit a jaw-dropping 95.64% turnout. That's not just participation. That is pure passion and intensity on a whole other level. And for a lot of people, the day felt just like that. We heard from voters on the ground, some even saying the whole process was smooth and peaceful. So that was one version of the day, a huge success, a celebration of democracy. But as you can probably guess, that wasn't the full story. Because while all these people were lining up to vote, there was something else going on, a fierce war of words. The two main players, the BJP and the TMC, were out there making completely different pitches to the very same voters. And you can see how different their visions were. You've got the BJP talking about cooperation, development, and economic promises like boosting fish exports. And then you've got the TMC, who basically turned this into a fight against what they call the anti-Bengal BJP. They were trying to make this a much bigger national battle. The Prime Minister himself put the BJP's message out there pretty clearly. The whole idea was about synergy. If the PM and CM are together, development will take place day and night. It was a simple, practical pitch. Let's work together and get things done. But then, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you have Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. She basically said, I'm not interested in any post. I just want to end the BJP government at the center. So right there, she elevates a state election into this huge national referendum on the central government. Two totally different ballgames. Now, this intense war of words, it didn't just stay in the speeches and rallies. Oh no, it spilled right out onto the streets. And that's what we started to see some really serious allegations of conflict and even intimidation. So that really brings us back to the other side of the story. Was the day really peaceful for everyone? Because while a lot of voters might have had a smooth experience, the stories coming from the party workers and the candidates themselves, they paint a very, very different picture. I mean, the allegations were flying, and they were coming from all sides, all over the place. In Malda, a BJP polling agent says he was attacked and his car was vandalized. Over in Nandigram, the TMC says their polling agents were attacked. A BJP candidate was supposedly manhandled. There were even reports of villagers clashing with central forces over an EVM in Purulia. So this wasn't just a one-off thing, it was a clear pattern of friction. So the day kind of turned into this messy cycle of finger-pointing. Both the BJP and the TMC were accusing each other of trying to mess with the election and scare voters. And if you're looking at this from a security standpoint, trying to plan for the next phases, this kind of chaos, all these claims and counterclaims, is an absolute nightmare. Okay, so let's recap. We've got two completely different realities happening on the very same day. On one side, a record-breaking festival of democracy. On the other, a day of bitter conflict. So what does it all mean? How do we even begin to make sense of this? Well, these are the exact questions that political analysts are trying to figure out right now. Does a turnout this high signal a wave for change? Or does it just show that the ruling party was really, really good at getting its base out to vote? And maybe most importantly, how are all these reports of violence going to affect things in the later voting phases? Is this just a preview of more tension to come? So in the end, it all boils down to one big question. When we look back on this selection, what's going to be the defining story? The record-breaking turnout or the record-breaking tension? That's what we'll be watching to find out. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.